Good evening. Thank you all for joining us for our October 14th board meeting. We'll start with calling the meeting to order at 6:07 p.m. Dr. Thomas, if you would conduct roll call for us.
Yes, ma'am. Mr. Davis,
Here.
Miss Gallagher, Mrs. Davis, Dr. Yeager,
Here.
Dr. Gant,
Here.
Dr. Maddox,
Here.
Dr. Dykeman,
Here.
Dr. Anderson,
Here.
and Attorney Hull.
Here.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. So we do have a quorum. We'll move forward with our moment, our silent meditation, our Pledge of Allegiance. So if you would join us for silent meditation. Thank you. And if you would join us in saying our Pledge of Allegiance, if you're able to stand, if you would stand with us. I pledge allegiance to the flag Thank you. We will move forward with our recognitions and awards. Dr. Thomas.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am. Miss Dr. Porter is coming to the mic, and he's introducing one of our school leaders who will present our award for this month.
Thank you, Dr. Thomas, Dr. Gant, board members. Every month we gather at this time to recognize our people, our students, our programs, our amazing activities that are going on in and around our school properties. And tonight is no exception. I'm going to turn it over to one of our esteemed principals, the leader of the, is it Leaping Frogs at Chase Street Elementary School? Principal. Principal Tracy. Is it Leapfrogs? Tree frogs. See, I'm learning something every night.
Thank
Principal
you.
Neal,
Thank you. First, I would like to say thank you for this opportunity. I'm real excited to be standing here to recognize Chase Street tree frogs. So thank you, Dr. Thomas. Thank you for the board members for having us. My name is Tracy Neal. I am the proud principal at Chase Street Elementary School. And I have with me, well, you know what? If you are a tree frog, please stand up. Oh. And for those that are on YouTube and you can't see, we're taking up half of the room. Okay? All right. So everyone can sit, but I do need Miss Lush to come on up. Our team, and this is an example of how well we work together as a team. We are a very supportive community. You didn't know. The kindergarten team, we told Miss Lush she was coming to share with you all the great work that the kindergarten team is doing in their classrooms. They are, and I'm going to go ahead and give a plug. They are integrating science and social studies into their math and ELA. So, yes, but the real reason is to celebrate you, Miss Lush. We are so proud of you. And I will tell you that a parent submitted your name. Yeah, and she wrote some great things about you. And you'll have them. They're there. But I do want to read out loud just that one middle paragraph there. It says, Miss Lush is everything you want in a kindergarten teacher. Kind, patient, energetic, and understanding. Her excitement is contagious. That is so true. But aside from that, she is devoted to teaching the children. And in one short month, my daughter is well on her way to reading and basic math. Don't leave. I see you trying to ease away. Don't leave, because I have to share a story. I am the new principal at Chase Street. So as a new leader of the team, the leadership team, Mr. Snow, our assistant principal's here, and our instructional coaches, we have Dr. Watkins here, and we have Ms. Suarez. So the four of us were doing walkthroughs. And, we're real serious. We had our clipboards and we're taking notes and we're writing down what we're noticing. And it's all to plan for our next steps. And we're walking and we're jotting down and we're meeting. We walked in Miss Lush's classroom, not a pen moved. We were so engaged into what was happening. The energy, you walked in, it felt so good. She was working on the carpet with one student at a time and she was moving. Come on, let's go. And then while she was working with one, we had the para work with a small group. We had the students independently going and getting their book baskets, and they knew what to do, and they were just dancing as they were going, and they were just, we had them spit. It was such, you know exactly what I'm talking about. It was such a wonderful environment when we walked out. First, it was hard for me to get the team out. Like, and we're loving it. It was like, okay, let's get out. We've been in here long enough. It's four of us. And we just laughed and laughed when we went in that hallway. It felt so good. The energy was so great. So I really want to say that I definitely agree with the parent. You definitely deserve this honor. And it couldn't go to a better person. So congratulations. Don't leave. Do you want to? Because I could tell another story. Actually, maybe I'm going to tell one real quick. Okay, real quick. Another story about Miss Lush. She's a true advocate for students, right? New principal, all these great ideas, and we're going to do this and we're going to do that. And we're sitting at the table at the kindergarten meeting. They know exactly what I'm talking about. And she was like, and she advocated for her students. And she talked about what they're currently doing as a grade level and the results that they're seeing. And like, is it okay for me to show? I'm like, please do. We're at this table together. We're working it out together. And she did advocate for her team and for her students. So I am really pleased to work with you. You're welcome. You're welcome. You don't have to stay up.
It's the tree frogs, right? Okay. Ms. Lush, would you like to say a few words, please? Yes. You're not going to get away that easy.
Okay. Okay. I couldn't understand why everybody was so chill about a presentation. I was like, okay, we'll just get up there and talk. Thank you so much. I love my team, and I'm so grateful to be at Chase Street. And I'm just having so much fun working with you guys, having so much fun teaching kindergarten, and I'm just very, very shocked and honored. Thank you.
Well, because this is a surprise, you probably don't know, but our partners through the Athens Chamber of Commerce are going to shower you with gifts, about $1,000 worth of prizes and cash prizes as well. So congratulations. Ms. Lush, the October Employee of the Month for Clark County School District. Congratulations. Dr. Thomas, that concludes our recognitions for this month.
Thank you, Dr. Gant. Congratulations, Ms. Lush and team, because it is a team effort. Thank you all.
Yes, thank you and congratulations.
No, sweet.
Yes, no, thank you.
All right, we'll move forward. They're definitely my favorite parts of the meeting. Yeah. We'll move forward to item 3, and this is to amend and or adopt the agenda.
I move to approve the agenda with one change, which is to add an executive session for personnel as item 10.1 and move the existing item 10.1 and 10.2 to 10.2 and 10.3.
Second.
Okay, and so we have a motion, and Ms. Hull, can you just, for my clarity, repeat that again? I just want to be sure I caught all the pieces to it as far as moving things around.
Move 10.1 to 10.2 and 10.2 to 10.3.
Okay. And that executive session is 10.1.
Yes.
Okay. All right, and can you just clarify the reason for the executive session?
To discuss confidential personnel matters as they relate to 10.2.
Okay, all right, thank you. So we have a motion on the floor, second. Any discussion or questions? All right, all in favor of adopting the agenda with that change, if you would say aye and raise your hands. Aye. Any opposed, the same sign. Okay, and any abstaining. Okay, so that motion carries, and we do have our adopted agenda with that small change. We'll move forward to number 4. This is our public comment. And just as a reminder, with our public comments, you will have 3 minutes. And we ask that you remain respectful, and personal attacks will not be tolerated. You'll be asked to have a seat or stop if you do engage in personal attacks. So our speakers for tonight are Kristen, is it Lay or Lee? Lizzie Saltz, Mr. Charlie Maddox, and Greg Maddox. Okay. So our first person, Kristen Lee or Lay. Okay. Don't see that this individual is here. Lizzie Saltz.
Good evening, CCSD. I imagine many of you are familiar with the Swiss cheese pandemic defense model that you have in front of you to share. Each slice represents an intervention that has holes, but collectively blocks most of the virus from getting through. This is a risk management tool that preceded the pandemic, but is now widely used. A whole lot of CCSD staff have been working really hard to reinforce many of these slices: masking, sanitation, tracing, dialoguing, all sorts of ways, which is truly fantastic. Recently, I was very encouraged to hear about initiatives that were going forward, like in-school vax clinics, remote nursing students helping with tracing, and a new CARES funding dashboard coming up. Fantastic. The COVID dash numbers are down, but here comes the but. We all know this is a wildly unpredictable virus. This is not the time to let our guard down. A disturbing example from my life: I was informed that I'd been exposed to a positive who was not only vaxxed, careful, athletic, retired gentleman in his 60s, but had a third booster 6 weeks ago. Kind of worrisome. Side note, I got a negative test back yesterday or I wouldn't be here. CCSD leadership, please focus on the weaker layers of the model. Laying aside the complicated issue I know you're grappling with of requiring vaccinations is indoor air quality and access to outdoors. EPA, CDC, APA, everybody emphasizes air quality and outdoor air is super crucial layer. So please restore community trust by being as transparent as possible about HVAC and creating a third dashboard with HVAC repair status and where air purifying units have been placed. And please let us know what kind of feedback you're getting on lunchtime and snack time outdoors. How are you finding out about it? What's the mechanism for that? We're kind of in the dark. PR, please let us know every week what good things are being worked on. Dr. Harvey, a virologist, has shown his plans for the Corey Rosenthal box, which you have, which are being done all over the country. They're less than 100. They're really effective. Let's make that happen. Let's not just sit around. Let's do it. We need that to happen. I hear from Mr. Porter that tents were purchased, and that was discussed with Dr. Thomas at a meeting, but I don't have any info in Better Together or my JAG News. We're in the dark. Parents need information. We need trust. We need to know you're working. We know you're working, but we need more information about air quality issues. And that's what I'm talking about. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Mr. Charlie Maddox.
Not often I get to have that raise when I come up, but I appreciate that. To all of you here today, and to especially our governing body, uh, as a Baptist preacher, I don't want to rehash. She just said everything I was going to say. I'm here in support of the vaccination mandate, but I'm in support of what all you do. And some of these things are biggies, some of these things are not. I think we've got to take them all in consideration. I mean, as I look, that's what she was saying, and I'm looking at what I got here. I said, I don't need to say all that. She said, just take to heart what she's saying. Yes, let's do the big thing, but it's the little thing that catches, the little thing that get us. So let's just bring together a comprehensive plan and a comprehensive effort to deal with this virus. I have a little sign that I sent out to some of my people, and there's a little kid, and he's looking out the door, and he said, nope, it's still out there. And I want you to know it's still out there. But I commend you with taking the stance that you're taking. I commend you for the work that you're doing in this. And just to let you know, everybody around here is not crazy. Let's go ahead with this, but let's go even further that we can protect. I have a daughter in school, 17 years old. I want to see her protected. And I thank you all for the job that you're doing. This is a good step in the direction, but it's no way halfway even. So let's just keep doing what you're doing. And I applaud her for the research and the stuff that she's provided you with. I have it there, but I don't have to. So I'll just say amen. And thank each of you. And take that in consideration, because all the mitigation, everything has a place, and everything in its place, we will come through this. Thank you.
Thank you. Greg Maddox. Greg Maddox. Okay. Okay. He's not gonna speak. Okay, he's gonna pass up. Noted. Okay. We will move forward to the president's report. There are a few things, but I am having some trouble with logging onto the internet here, so I'm gonna ask for some help with a few of these things. But that very first thing is the date for professional development. I think last week, Ms. Davis, sent out or shared a couple of days that had been narrowed down. They were in November, and we needed to select one of those days to complete our self-assessment and to do team building. And so I wanted to circle back around to the board to see of those days. I think of one of those November days, both Sam and Julie would be available. But if somebody could remind me of what those 2 days were. Yes, so it's the 2nd. It was November 2nd and the 9th. And I think, Dr. Thomas, do you recall, you or Dr. Mattis recall, was it the 2nd that both Julie and Sam were available? Okay, and if you can help me by locating that, I'll move on just to the other things. Also, moving forward with the ad hoc recognition committee. I know we didn't fully discuss that, so I just wanted to let you know we'll discuss placing that on the November agenda. But if you remember reading that, the scope is pretty specific in the timeline, and so. But I was aware that with our agenda, it wasn't pulled out necessarily as a separate item. And so if you can just be on the lookout for that to be on that November agenda. And at that time, we'll confirm who's on that committee. And then you'll have the board will take action. We'll discuss it a little bit more and take action. So I do ask if you would just continue considering serving on that committee, so that we can go ahead and at least have some things in place to recognize individuals who have contributed significantly to education in Clark County. We won't be able to do everything, but at least starting those conversations. Okay. And the 18th was that time that we have our strategic, I think that was that strategic planning. Okay. So no, is everyone available November 2nd? You're not available. Anybody else not available?
What day is that?
The night, the second, it's on a Tuesday. All right. So what we will do, if you all are okay with that, I'll go ahead and confirm that date. Dr. Anderson, you and I can get together. I think there are some steps that we can take so it'll still count as a whole board training. And it may involve you watching it or us having it recorded, but we'll figure that out. If that's okay with the board, or does the board prefer? That should probably be deferring to Dr. Anderson and the board. Do we prefer a date that we can have everyone there? It is something we need to go ahead and get done in November, but I'm happy to go back and ask for dates.
Dr. Anderson would like to attend, so I would ask that we look for different dates.
Okay. All right. Is the board okay with that? Okay, so I'll ask you if you would just be on the lookout, and I'll reach back out to Julie and Sam as well to see what other dates for November. If they don't have any other dates, we'll pivot back to this date. So don't clear that date yet. But if they do, and it's something that all of us can be at, I'll send that as well. Okay. All right. Other areas, we've talked about the ad hoc committee. Thank you very much. Yeah. The other thing I wanted us to decide is with the Cognia upcoming visit. Just wanted to know your thoughts. Last semester, we had an update before their visit, just so we could see at the same time the different things that we were including in the report, and ask any additional questions. But primarily the report is just a reporting out of things that we've done that they've asked us to work on. Would you all like that update in the work session, or I think last semester we had a special call meeting, if I'm not mistaken, but I did want to just check back in with you to see if you would like to include it in November's work session, or do we need to have a special call meeting?
I like the work. Oh, I'm sorry. I was going to say the work session sounds fine. Okay.
Okay. All right. So does that seem okay? All right. Work session. So the Cognia update will be a part of the work session. The next thing is actually later in our agenda, but just wanted to mention that we do have the superintendent/board advisory committee that we will need to approve later. And so just wanted to put that back on your radar. And this was there last week as well, that we will need to confirm and take action on that list tonight. Okay. And that includes the board members that will be participating on that committee. I will say, once that committee meets more, particularly over those first couple of meetings, there will be more parameters. Like, for instance, there were some initial discussions about terms, right? Because first, no one wants to sign up to do anything forever. And so, but understanding what the terms will be, what else will be needed, what those immediate tasks will be. And we know part of that immediate task will be sorting through some of the feedback, the great feedback we've gotten from the World Cafe, as well as the superintendent, as well as the survey that was sent out. But that is just the initial work. We are hopeful that that committee will really serve as the infrastructure. If we go back to the Cognia report, the recommendation was building some type of infrastructure, an advisory committee, so that there's two-way communication and that board members can hear the same thing from a more consistent group. And so that was one of those efforts, but it's not the only thing that that group will be doing. And so we're hoping that is the goal, to be sure that we have information flowing both ways and that we're getting feedback regularly on some of those larger things. Mr. Davis?
Yeah, I just wanted to share that the Government and Community Relations Committee is looking at the results of both the survey and the BOE community event results. And so, we're going to be doing that next Tuesday, examining those up close and particularly looking at translating people's comments into action items that would be relevant for the board to maybe move on if it so chose.
Okay, I think, so I think that could be helpful, certainly with your committee. That's also the work of that superintendent/board advisory committee as well. And so I would just ask that the Government and Community Relations Committee understands that, as you sort through information, that is one area, but we're also trusting that those 2 or 3 board members that will be a part of that superintendent/board advisory group will be able to use that information as a part of that conversation. But we really want to we want to have those conversations, but it's just an opportunity as well for people in the community to be involved. Like, what are they hearing? Alongside doing that alongside board members as well. And so I want to be sure that that we don't confuse the matter, that the Government Relations Committee is not expecting any type of immediate action, because that work, a good bit of that work will also rest with with that advisory committee as well. And ideally, again, it would be someone on there, a part of that committee from the Government Relations Committee. So I don't want to get too far into what the committee is doing, because I think that's the autonomy of the committee. I just want to be sure we manage the expectations. Other questions?
So could I get a little bit more clarity about so at last week's work session, the responsibility of sort of digesting the information from these surveys and the community event was placed on the Government and Community Relations Committee. And so it seemed natural that we received that email that said, okay, well, let's take this information and figure out what themes that we can identify from this information and then bring it back to the board. That's how I understood last week's meeting to go, because it seemed as though this group wanted the committee, rather than individuals or just one event, to gather that information and come up with the themes that we could then bring back to the board. But what I'm hearing today is something a little bit different. And so before we venture as a committee onto the task of figuring out the hundreds of pieces of data from that survey, I would really like us to have a little bit more direction about what that's going to mean before we do that. Because if it's not important, if someone else is going to do it, or if it's more the superintendent's advisory committee's role, then we can walk away from that. But if that's our job to do it as a committee and then bring it back to the board, then we'll do it. I just don't want duplication of effort. So maybe some clarification would help. Thank you.
I didn't when we were talking about it last week, I thought that we were saying that we were going to ask GSBA to help with the going through the responses and figuring out the responses to the survey. I didn't remember saying that the Government Relations Committee was going to do it, but maybe I'm misremembering. Does anybody else?
I remember making the statement that Dr. Gant had stated earlier in a previous meeting that she would contact GSBA to help us dissect the survey that was sent out by GSBA. And that was the only statement that I made, but that is the only thing that I knew about. And then, of course, the cafe discussion got blended into that. So I'm pretty sure we may have easily walked away with different ideas about what that meant, because it is still unclear.
If I can support Dr. Anderson, we had an agenda item last week, through the Government and Community Relations Committee. We gave a report in which we had 11 recommendations, and the chair at the time said, that it did not seem appropriate to talk about each one of those because that was only one piece of feedback that we had received at that point from the community, and that we were to take that information and not bring it up now, but look at it in terms of the survey results. And so that's where, that just reinforces what Dr. Anderson said. So again, I back her up in terms of, clarification, because if it's the will of this body for us not to dive into that work, then we certainly have other things on the agenda for Tuesday that we can focus on.
And I totally agree with all the things you said there, that is what we talked about. And I just didn't realize that was then interpreted as the Government Relations Committee should look into the survey. So I think there's just a misinterpretation by one of us.
Okay. And so it's a few things I hear, but I'm wondering if a possible solution might be I know originally we had talked about having GSBA come back and speak with the whole board and us digesting that information and then figuring out like what those action items might be. And so what I'm wondering is, and Dr. Thomas, if you can weigh in, as well as staff where we've been trying to sort of work through that this particular work. I'm wondering if the board then would be open to, if the Government Relations Committee is willing to take on that data and go through it and synthesize it and find the themes. If you all then can then share what those themes are with the board, and then we can also use those themes as just additional information gathering with that superintendent/board advisory committee. Just if there are any additional, if there's any additional feedback from that particular work that we're doing. It sort of gives us a jumping off place, I think, with the committee, because the committee is going to meet, whether it's around these or other things in the future. But I do think it could be helpful. It sort of takes some of the work out of that committee, but I don't think it takes all of it, because I do think there's still maybe some feedback that could be gathered with that committee, or just letting them know these are the themes that have been presented to the board. Have we missed something based on the feedback that you all gave? Because I think the survey was sent to them as well. And so clearly what I would recommend then is the Government Relations Committee, they do that heavy lifting. And then if you can share those themes with the board, and then we can use those themes as a part of the work that we start. It won't be all of the work that we do with that committee, but that we start with that committee. critique, change, any opposing thoughts or other solutions, I'm more than happy for us to discuss those.
I think then that committee could help to weigh in on how then, once those themes are identified, how do you begin to prioritize those with feedback from community members, because that will be community members, teachers. I'm trying to think who all is on that. Lawrence, I'm sorry. It's communities, 3 groups. Parents, thank you. I'm like, there's a 3rd group, then I'm like, that's PAB, thank you. And so it will give us some additional layer of feedback to help with then how do you prioritize, because out of those things you could easily have 20 things that come up. So then, where do we move first, and how do we start to chop away at those areas so that we can make improvement?
Yeah, and so to be clear, I would think that that heavy lifting with the government relations committee may be coming up with the themes versus the action items immediately. And that way we can, we can use those themes and we can talk more in that committee. Ideally, government relations will have a person who's a part of that committee, but we can talk about like different ideas and action items as it relates to those particular themes. I think there could be 20 action items, and those action items might, if it only rests with that government relations committee, we still might miss something, right? We might say, hey, we think this is a great idea. But if we can take those themes to that larger group and say, these are our themes, what are some of the ideas that you have that this is what falls within the board's purview? What are some ideas that you have on how we can achieve this particular work? I just sort of see it as a continuation of that conversation. But I don't, is that clear? Is that not clear? Are there other options that we have? Dr. Anderson and Mr. Davis, does that feel clear, or is there more clarity needed?
I just want us to be realistic that that is a huge data set to work with.
Yeah.
There are 28, I think, questions that were asked, many of them qualitative. So I just want to be really honest here with our committee that if we are going to endeavor on this path, that every member of the committee has to do the work, because it is a huge data set. And if we're identifying themes, that's simple enough, but it's also identifying themes from several hundred respondents.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone has their opinion. There's an art to doing this.
That's right.
And none of us are experts in that art. So it's a huge endeavor, and we have to, as a committee, decide that this is something that we're willing to take on.
So,
Oh, okay. Ms. Linda?
and listening to what Dr. Anderson just said, it is a concern to me that to ask the board to take on that task if we aren't prepared to do that. This is the work that staff does in their analysis of data and data points all the time. And so I'm curious as to how does the staff engage either with the committee or with the advisory board to guide this work. I think we've been told by GSBA to allow the experts to do that kind of work on our behalf. So I don't know, I would maybe, I've said enough. Yeah.
Okay. And so is your recommendation your question, wondering how staff will be a part of this?
My recommendation is that this is staff work, and so it's more than a question. It's a recommendation that we allow the experts to do the work. I think we can, again, be subjective and qualitative about things as we are, but is that the best use of our time? And so my question would be, again, to what is our ultimate goal with that, with this initiative, right? We have some specific things we want to address, and I would ask the experts to tell us how to get to that data point so that we can move forward with that.
I'd
Thank
like
you.
to counter that this is not the staff's job. I don't think it has anything to do with the staff. It's about the board, and it's about how we operate and how we are functioning to contribute to the work of the district. It is not the staff's job to analyze this data, in my opinion. This is qualitative and quantitative data that needs to be analyzed by people who know how to do this and identify the themes that they can bring back to the board to take into consideration. I don't think that this is something that we should endeavor on, nor the district.
So if the board is, as governance is not a part of the district, then that's a different issue. But the group that is tasked with doing that work would be the administrative staff. And so if we don't want the administrative staff to bring their expertise to this task, then I would change my request that we hire somebody outside to do it.
So what I would recommend is this. You all have a meeting. Is it next week, Mr. Davis? And this is the big. I don't want to totally conflate. Like there's work that superintendent evaluation committee will do and continue to do beyond this particular piece, but it is true that we need the information from those surveys. We need to talk about it. We need to, figure out, what some of those things are. And I'm hearing different opinions. Like some people, we have the opinion on the floor that that's not our work, and that it might be best to hire someone to come in and help facilitate that. I'm open to whatever the board decides to do, but I also want to caution us. I don't want us to get so far. I don't want to make it bigger than what and more complicated than what it needs to be. One of the things that was important is that we start right, and we started by sending out the survey. Is that then we start with the data. I don't think that Cognia is expecting us to, hire an outside, statistician or researcher. But if that is something that the board feels, you are right. It is a lot of information. It is a lot of information, and so I just know we need to move forward on it. And so, of course, I want to do it right. But I think we'll be able to even perfect this even more as we go. This won't be our first survey. We actually, if we go back to that report, one of the things that was recommended is that we have ongoing communication and that we are, gathering this type of information on our functioning consistently. And so at the very least, I would think that would be, yearly. And so I don't want us to get stuck. And I know we've been talking about it for a little while. And I just want us to be able to move forward. And if we need to either change course or the next time we send out the survey, we're like, whoa, okay, we missed some things here. We might actually need to do this all over again, or maybe we need to have GSBA come back. I don't think there's a wrong way. I think the most important thing is just not moving forward with the data. Right now, the data is just sort of sitting there. We've read through it, and it's and it's there.
So two things. One, is it possible to not, hire somebody to analyze it for us, but maybe just have GSBA tell us how they think that this should be done, since they were the ones who sent it out, and just give us a little bit of guidance. And then the other thing is that I don't want to put it all on the government relations committee. If this is something that's going to take many, many hours and a lot of work, I think that if we can split it among all 9 of us versus 4, people on the government relations committee. I would be willing to help with it, I guess is what I'm saying. I don't want to speak for everybody, but I don't think it's fair to put it all on that committee.
All right. So,
I have.
oh, go ahead. I'm
Yeah,
sorry,
okay.
Mr. Davis.
Yeah, first off is that I do appreciate you saying that, Dr. Dykeman. I think one thing that we need to start in getting back to what Dr. Anderson said earlier about, starting with the Government and Community Relations Committee, that each of those members need to follow through in preparation for Tuesday's meeting. I mean, that's first. But also, even when we did the BOE community event, we had 7 board members participating in breakout sessions, and only 4 summed up their experiences, at least that I'm aware of. So that from the beginning really disturbed me, because it means that that if we're going to really reach out to the community in a systematic way, then, first off, you're exactly right. This is only the first step. I mean, by policy, the Government and Community Relations Committee is to have another event in the spring. We're supposed to have twice a year, have some type of community event that we will invite all board members to participate in, so that we can hear what the public is saying. I mean, that's my policy. And you're right. I think the survey would make a lot of sense for us to do a continual, doing this as a continual thing. So I think that what the Government and Community Relations Committee can do is to help kind of like create these channels and keep track of these channels that of which we are formally getting feedback from the community. But I do agree with Dr. Dykeman that there is going to be a time and a place for the entire board to talk about it. I don't know. I think at some point we need to take ownership. Certainly, it's not the staff's responsibility to help the board figure out how it needs to improve itself. And GSBA can be, a big help in that, but ultimately it is our responsibility ourselves, and we have to do our own house cleaning. So anyway, I think enough said, but I feel like we've got enough guidance for Tuesday's meeting to initiate the process that you're talking about.
Okay.
Madam Chair.
Okay. So just to be clear, so you feel that the Government Relations Committee can begin the process of identifying the themes. Okay. And then what I'll do also, I'll follow up. I'll just ask GSBA. I think we've asked them this before, if I'm not mistaken, but I'll follow back up. I really do think a lot of it is what we decide to do with this information. And so there is a lot that's within our, that we have to decide on how we're going to take this information. But I'll ask them again. And so I have that the Government Relations Committee will start looking at those themes. And if you could at least share those themes with us or be prepared to do that, then that also gives us some additional information for that meeting. Does that sound okay, Dr. Thomas and Emily and Dr. Maddox? Okay. And if something changes, we'll update you. And then it'll be someone on that committee from government relations anyway to report out. Okay. Thank you to everyone for sharing. And I definitely hear, Mr. Davis, your call for those of us that do participate in those activities to be sure that we follow through. And so I've made a note for myself to be sure to do that and get that information to you. I am sorry that report took so long. I think that's everything from my report.
Ready for me? Okay.
Yes.
I want to start with Nurse Amy Rourke. She had a commitment this afternoon, and I promised her she'd be out 30 minutes ago. So, Nurse Amy, if you'll come up, she just wanted to give a very brief overview of where we are and what we've been doing, and just share some positives. And then I have some data updates that I can share after you finish.
Good evening, Madam President, members of the board. Is that better?
Yes.
Yes.
There you
Awesome.
go.
Good evening. I'm Amy Roark, the Director of Nursing for Clark County School District. I think most of you know me in previous meetings when I have had the privilege of speaking. Dr. Thomas asked me just to give a brief update, 2 to 3 minutes, on what's going on with COVID across our school district, and I always appreciate that opportunity. So thankfully, the report tonight is more optimistic than it has been in months past. I am grateful for that, and I'm also very aware that the pandemic is not over, and the Clark County School District needs to remain committed to focusing on our mitigation measures in our schools. I really think that Clark County School District and our community should be very proud of a lot of the mitigation measures that we have put into place and continue to do so, from mask mandates to contact tracing efforts to really trying to provide students and staff with vaccine opportunities and education as much as we can. The local numbers in our community and our school community mimic what we're seeing in our Clark County community and in the state of Georgia and even across the nation in most of the areas. So as of today, according to the Georgia Daily Status Report, Athens Clark County is at 186 cases per 100,000 over the past 14 days. And if you've been following along in this pandemic, you know that that's a number that we look at regularly. And back in August, that number was over 1,000. So again, I repeat, as of today, according to the Department of Public Health, it's at 186 cases per 100,000 over the past 14 days, which is a wonderful decline from the numbers that we have been seeing. The Clark County School District itself had 508 cases of COVID during the month of August. That was a historic number, more than we have seen combined in all the months that we were in school for 2020. So really a significant amount. 508 cases. In September, we had 312 cases reported across the district, students and staff numbers combined. And as of today, halfway through October, we have 55 cases that have been reported to us so far this month in the past 2 weeks. This week alone, we have 0 schools reporting greater than 10 cases. We do have one school that's between 5 and 10, and thankfully all of the other schools have reported numbers less than 5 this week alone. So just to give you an idea of what we are seeing internally, we are seeing a decrease that we are optimistic about, but as we are all aware, it is an unpredictable situation, and so it's important that we remain committed to keeping our students and staff healthy and safe and our schools open for in-person learning. Vaccine clinics have been a real bright spot in the past 2 weeks. In case you are not aware, DPH reached out with the Athens Clark County government $100 incentivized gift cards and wanted to make sure that CCSD students had access to them. So we have completed 4 vaccine clinics in our middle schools that were a wonderful success over the past 2 weeks. We did 2 last week and 2 this week. We vaccinated approximately 50 to 70 individuals at each middle school event, and about half of those were students receiving their first time vaccination. The other half were staff members who took advantage of the wonderful convenience of having a booster shot available on site at their school. So they were well received, they were well run, and we will be continuing to schedule second dose clinics in those middle schools 3 weeks from today. DPH is committed that the students and staff who receive their first dose have the convenience of getting their second dose at school also. High school students will have a vaccine opportunity next week as well. Family Connections has planned a wonderful vaccine event in collaboration with the Innovative Healthcare Institute, and they will be offering vaccines to students only at both Cedar and Central next week. So the Cedar clinic is October 20th from 9 to 3 p.m. And the Clark Central Clinic for students is October 21st from 9 to 3 p.m. And this is a collaboration between multiple community partners. In fact, I think the school district is sending out a communication tonight about these events. It's already been disseminated to the high school students as far as how they sign up to get their vaccine, but that's occurring next week. And then finally, staff boosters in our high schools will be occurring on October 22nd. So next Friday, DPH is going to come in and offer booster shot clinics for staff members in our high schools. They're going to be at Clark Central from 8 to 11 a.m. They're going to be at Cedar Shoals from 1 to 4 p.m. on Friday, October 22nd. Those clinics will be marketed to staff. Anybody is welcome. There's no appointments needed. And first doses, second doses, and booster shots will be available through DPH on October 22nd. So the question kind of remains for elementary staff members and other staff members who may be interested in receiving a booster dose at their school conveniently. I just want to say that those discussions are in process, and DPH would really like for those clinics to coincide with the approval of the vaccine for 5 through 11-year-olds, which they anticipate to be coming in the next few weeks. So the plan, the hope, what we're working on and currently discussing is that DPH will come into our elementary schools once the vaccine is approved for 5 through 11-year-olds and offer vaccines to students who would like them, as well as booster shots to our elementary school staff as a convenience. Meanwhile, we have been talking regularly with CCSD staff asking this question, that booster shots are easily available. School district employees are eligible for them through the high-risk occupational criteria, and you can make an appointment today at the health department to get one. You can also go to the Hillsman Health Center or any pharmacy. So, appointments are easily accessible right now for booster shots for school district employees. The Hillsman Health Center is doing great. It's busy. They have a full schedule. I feel like that is such a bright spot in our school district that I always want people to know of. They are testing students and staff daily for COVID. They are vaccinating students and staff for COVID. They are doing urgent care visits and chronic condition support. And it just remains a very busy place with a full schedule, and continues to be really appreciated by our school communities. That is all of my updates. I don't think
That's it. I have a few numbers that I can share, but those are just around questions about staff numbers, vaccine updates, how many staff positives we've had, how many students have been quarantined this year, that kind of thing. Did you have someone to say something? Oh, okay. Right.
drive safely. Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
For this opportunity.
Thank you very much.
Just when we talked earlier, we were excited just about how much positive was going on. And I know a lot of times, even though it's out on our website and emails to parents, sometimes you all don't get to hear or miss seeing some of the proactive things that are taking place. So I asked her to come and share that today. So thank you. And my other updates really are quick. I'll stay kind of along the pandemic end right now. We did receive questions about staff positives. I think, Mr. Davis, you had asked some of that. So in the month of August, we had 54 staff members that are certified that were positive. We had 42 in September. And through the 13th of October, we've had 7. And that's our certified staff. For classified staff, we had 21 in August, 15 in September, and 4 in the month of October. We have tracked absences through the emergency paid sick leave. For that, we have had 238.5 days taken this year through emergency paid sick leave. Total absences for all reasons, not just COVID, has been 4,332. So the percentage of teachers' absences for this school year that are COVID related have been 5.5%. And we've had 3,043 students who have had to quarantine since August. That's 2.3% of our population. And then the vaccine update, to date, we had 1,837 people submit for the, it goes down a little bit though, sorry, Dr. Anderson, but it was good. still good. We had 1,837 because I was really excited who submitted to be reimbursed. 1,553 have been reviewed already. We have 1,376 that have been verified. So some of the others just may not have submitted the right documentation. I'm wanting to believe that if they turned it in, so I'm still staying hopeful with that 1,800 number, that they just submitted the wrong paperwork. 155 were duplicates. And then we had 284 additional that were submitted after October 1st. So if you add that to that 1,500, we are kind of still getting close to that 1,800 number. So that is the update on our vaccines. And the only other was just a positive. We have this last 2 weeks has been Everyone Appreciation Week, Appreciation Month. So our operations department has done an excellent job. HR has worked with them, other staff members, but they did lunch and gifts last week for all of our custodians in the district. And that was a huge success. We received some emails of thanks. Right now, they're doing nutrition appreciation packages. It's hard to get them out because during eating times, they're serving our kids. But they are doing appreciation packages for them. And then next week, they're having a breakfast for all of our transportation staff. So a lot of efforts out there to show appreciation to our operations team. And that concludes my report. Mr. Davis, you have a question for me? Yes, sir.
Thank you. Yeah, I think the numbers are really good. Let me ask a question, and I think it was more appropriate for you than it was for Nurse Ward. Are there mediation actions that we're doing now that we will not really be able to do in winter? And the reason I'm asking that is that from a personal standpoint, my social life has picked up in the sense that we do entertaining outside. We're not going to be able to do that if it gets cold. And so I know that that's going to curtail my life personally in terms of my social life. Are we doing things in our schools like eating lunch outdoors, extra playtime, keeping the windows open? I don't know. But are we doing things in the good weather? Because this is great weather, but it's not going to stay with us forever. So
Right.
I'm afraid of a surge because of the winter time and the change in school life.
The biggest area would be, in my assumption, would be during eating time. You do have more opportunity now to dine outside. I don't think a lot of our classes, and I'm looking at you, Mr. Gaskins, are doing like a lot of outdoor learning. I believe that a lot of what we're seeing has to do with community exposure or a reduction in community exposure. Those numbers are going down. And, when we came back, it was high because a lot of people had been vacationing. They had been hanging out, I think, a lot more with friends and family. But I don't know of a lot of, I think the majority of our classroom instruction is happening indoors. And some of our classrooms are choosing to eat outside, but we are also doing a good job of distancing more inside and giving them opportunities, if they want to eat in the classrooms and that kind of, okay, rotating between cafeteria and classrooms. So I do not anticipate, but I can't speak to what a surge will look like. I don't anticipate that the weather itself is going to cause such differences in practice in what's happening in our schools every day to result in a surge. That's the end of my report.
Okay, thank you for those updates. We will move forward with the financial report. Okay, I'm sorry. Thank you.
Yes, I was looking to make sure there was nothing new that he needed to add, but he presented last week.
Thank you. Okay, so the floor is open. For, oh, wait, is there a financial report that don't we take
That
action
we
on that?
approve, we do. Yeah.
Yeah, am I confusing myself? I know I was absent last week, but I thought,
I second.
okay. Any questions or concerns? All in favor of approving the financial report, if you would, raise your hands and say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, the same sign? And any abstaining? Okay. All right, we will move forward to item number 8. And these are our policies to be posted for 4 weeks for public comment. Dr. Yeager?
Thank you. So I provided everyone the 2-pager that I promised with the data around the vaccine policy. I'd like to address some of the questions that came up in the past week. The main one is that this policy is designed to help keep students in the classroom. That's our primary goal, but our secondary goal is also, as Mr. Maddox mentioned, keeping our staff safe. And so I provided a bunch more citations in the policy, and we have simplified the policy as discussed last week, according to everyone's request. So the new policy now is more like a testing mandate, if you let me flip it on its head, a testing mandate that you have to test every week unless you get the vaccine. And the reason for this is, of course, to keep our kids safe and to keep our staff safe. I put on the 1-pager addressing the cost concerns that were discussed. The board said it was willing to spend up to $1.2 million to incentivize the vaccines. That was the $500 for every employee. I understand we've spent about $850,000, so there's quite a bit of money left from that original commitment to do testing every week of the 500 to 700 staff for the entire spring semester. So I don't think we're going to go outside that budget. I also looked into other school districts. There are about 100 large school districts around the country. About a third of those have vaccines rules of some sort. The only district in Georgia besides ourselves that I'm aware of is the Decatur School District, which has a staff of about 1,000. They require, they require a daily test or a vaccine. Finally, I have some data from the Kaiser Family Foundation discussing vaccine hesitancy and interviewing unvaccinated people about why they have chosen not to be vaccinated. As you imagine, there's, just like Athens, there's about 30% of the people are not vaccinated currently. Actually, that's the district's numbers are about 70% of the staff are vaccinated, 30% have not been vaccinated. That's a little better than the city of Athens. I put those numbers on the other side. In any case, according to this survey, which is a nationwide survey, about half of unvaccinated people are willing to get the vaccine under some circumstances, and especially willing if it's mandated at work. Only about 12% of all people surveyed say that they will never get the vaccine. So it's a smaller number, hopefully, than we have at the moment. So with all that information, I guess I would recommend that we move to post this revised policy for the 4 weeks for public comment. A month from now, we could change our minds and just vote it down. But I would like to spend the month hearing from the public and also working out some of the details of the testing policy. That would be my recommendation. Can they show the policy, please?
Okay, so that was a motion, Dr. Yeager, to
Yes,
move
ma'am.
this forward?
That was a motion.
Okay.
Second.
All right. Okay, so we have a motion by Dr. Yeager, a second by Mr. Davis. Any follow-up questions, discussions, or concerns? Okay. All right. All in favor? All in favor of moving the vaccination policy up for public comment, if you would, raise your hands and say aye.
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 Okay. All opposed, if you would, raise your hands and show the same signs.
Aye.
Okay, so that motion does pass. Am I correct? Any abstaining? Oh, did you abstain? Okay, so we have a motion to, okay, so we have I think that was 4. Was that 4? Okay, Mr. Pruitt, I'm going to defer to your, does that mean, because it's a tie, does that mean it didn't pass? Could you clarify what this means?
Can I make sure that the minutes reflect how people voted?
And can I ask about the reason for abstaining? We're not really supposed to abstain unless there's personal interest or conflict of interest.
Well, my abstention was because I don't think that this at all involved the district. In deciding that this was going to move forward to the board as a policy, or working out the logistics of how this would pass as a policy. And so I just simply do not have enough information to make a decision about whether this is a sound decision with regard to equity and with regard to whether this is actually going to reduce the burden of COVID in our community. I just do not have the information to make a decision. And I've said it many times. This isn't the first time that I've said it. I can't vote on something that I just have no confidence in because I have no information about how you all came to that decision. And that's why I abstained.
Okay.
And I would just say we have followed the process. We followed the process. Sorry.
Okay. So we will definitely move forward, but definitely just making a note that I do think there's continued work to be done there. I think we all have shared either last week or, by email or otherwise, our thoughts related to this. And so, so yes, we'll move forward to policy 8.2.
So I move that we put policy DJE as revised from 80,000 to 50,000 spending limit for board approval, up for public comment.
Okay. So we have a motion by Dr. Yeager. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Ms. Hall, any follow-up questions or anything from last week that? All right.
I do have a question because I was sitting where you were last week and I really didn't understand the rationale behind this particular motion.
Can you speak up?
I don't understand the rationale behind this particular motion. Why we're lowering that limit now.
We talked about that last week.
I just don't remember. And it's okay, I'll go back and look at the meeting notes from last week. Or you don't want to talk about it. I'll do that. I'll look at the video.
Okay. All right. So all in favor of moving, okay, and this is for public comment. It's not actually adopting it. Moving this forward for public comment, if you would raise your hands and say aye.
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 Okay. Those opposed, if you would, the same sign.
No.
Okay. Any abstaining? Okay, so that motion does carry. That policy will be put forth for public comment. That was policy DJE. We'll move forward to item 9. And these are our policies to be adopted, rescinded, revised, or reviewed. Dr. Yeager?
I move that based on no public comments and no other questions from the board, that all 4 of these policies be put forth or adopted, rescinded, revised, or reviewed as stated. I move.
Okay, thank you.
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion by Dr. Yeager, second by Dr. Dykeman. Any remaining questions that weren't asked last week or discussion? Okay, all in favor of,
All 4 policies, right?
Yes.
and that is, just for the record, the policy EG, EBH, EBBG, and EBC.
Is this one that has the lease agreement in it? I just can't remember.
Yes.
EBH, is that it?
Okay. All in favor of moving these or adopting, rescinding, revising, reviewing these policies, if you would say aye and raise your hands.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Any opposed?
Aye.
And any abstaining? Okay, so that motion passes. We'll move forward to our personnel recommendations. This is section 10, and we did earlier modify our agenda. So the floor is open for a motion, and this is 10-1 now, but the floor is open for a motion to go into executive session in order to discuss or deliberate upon the appointment, employment, compensation, hiring, disciplinary action, or dismissal, or periodic evaluation or rating of a public officer or employee, or to interview applicants for the position of superintendent.
So moved.
Okay, so we have a motion by Ms. Hull and then a second by Ms. Gallagher. Any discussion or questions? All right, all in favor of entering executive session for that stated reason, if you would raise your hands and say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? And any abstaining? Okay, so that motion does pass. We are entering into executive session at 7:24.
It's hard. You only get so many prayers. I was just gonna say, here, and just say, we appreciate you, but you're not going this different. So. Yeah, I'm tired. Okay. When I'm tired, I say no. Yeah, but I want to put the same information in board. Well, where did you put that? Where did you, how did you give that? You put it in the ESA yourself? But they're just like looking in exchange for his help. They just left.
Yeah, so, yeah. Yeah, they, they keep going. Yeah.
All right.
You know what, they did. Google, yeah.
Absolutely.
They keep.
Are you gonna leave? But if you put it by her office.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which one is it?
Yeah, and I'm gonna text her right now, so I just want to. Okay. All right, yeah.
Okay.
Central Department, I'll.
Yeah. Yeah, Microsoft, you know, they want you to use their. So then we just click sign in. You want us to zoom out? Or are you saying to be on it?
Okay, so we'll go ahead and open up the floor for a motion to exit executive session.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Ms. Hall, a second by Dr. Maddox. Any questions, concerns? All in favor of exiting executive session, if you would raise your hands and say aye.
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 Any opposed? And any abstaining? Okay, so we are exiting executive session at 7:48. Okay, we will move forward to our personnel recommendations. And this is now item 10.2, or the other personnel recommendations, 10.2, and then we actually had an addendum with 10.3. Dr. Thomas?
Yes, ma'am. It's my recommendation that the personnel recommendations and report and addendums be accepted as presented.
Mr. Davis? Okay.
Second.
Can we vote without Dr.?
Oh, what was that?
Can we vote without Dr. Anderson?
I think we can, but
Yeah, we got quorum.
we do have a quorum, so we can.
Do we want to wait?
She didn't request that we pause, but okay, yeah. Thank you for looking out.
Thank you.
Okay, so who was that? Who was the motion by though? For no, she made the
you made the
recommendation.
motion.
Did you make the motion?
Yes,
Okay, and who was the second by?
I think it was me.
Miss Davis.
Yes, because I'm really cold.
Okay. Any follow-up questions or discussion? All right. Thank you, Mr. Pruitt. Okay. All in favor of approving items 10.2 and 10.3, if you would raise your hands and say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. So we have one opposed. Oh, I'm sorry. Two opposed. Any abstaining? Okay, thank you. So that motion carries. We'll move forward with our consent agenda. This is item 11. Okay. And all of these have already, they've been placed here. So the floor is open for a motion.
I move that we adopt the consent agenda as printed.
Second.
That was Ms. Davis and Dr. Dykman. All right, all in favor of approving the consent agenda, if you would raise your hands and say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And any abstaining? Okay, that motion carries. All right, now we'll move forward to our additional action items. And we will start with 12.1, and this is just approving the local emergency paid sick leave. The floor is open. Was there any additional information that?
No,
Okay.
I think Mr. Davis pulled it, but I didn't hear any concerns this week from him about it.
No, I actually had a conversation with our human resources person
Okay.
after the meeting, and I do see this as the carrot. So hopefully we have 100% compliance.
So your questions were answered when you spoke. Okay, all right, perfect.
I move we approve 12.1.
Second.
Okay. Dr. Yeager made that motion, and Dr. Maddox seconded it. Any follow-up questions? All in favor of adopting or approving the local emergency paid sick leave, if you would raise your hands and say aye.
Aye.
Okay, any opposed? And any abstaining? Okay, that motion carries. 12.2, this is approval of the advisory committee participants.
I so moved.
Okay, and before we need to add names to this. I'm sorry. We have the list, but the list is not complete because we still need the board members. And maybe, I don't know, Mr.
I thought
Pruitt
we
or
were rotating.
Yeah, we will be rotating. So is that something that we would need to add to this? I know you haven't been in these conversations. If we are going to have board members that are part of this committee, but they will change and rotate, is it okay for us just to take action on this community participant list and just treat it like our other committees where the board members rotate in and out without taking action and voting on who those board members are? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay, so best to go ahead and determine who the board members are going to be. And
Well, but they're going to be rotated. So does that mean we have to come back every time we rotate in and out, or we just have 2 seats for board members that we approve? I'm trying to, again, just make sure that we don't have to come back and keep approving each other going on here.
okay. I'm not sure,
You
actually.
did say you wanted 2 board members to be on this committee, and so I would think that that would be sufficient for us to pass this motion, and then whether you appoint them or they're volunteers, then we've approved ourselves to be a part of this. I would think. I don't know. I'm just trying to understand why we would have to have a separate vote.
Mr. Davis.
I mean, I can speak on behalf of the Government and Community Relations Committee. I think that, I mean, this will be an agenda item for us on Tuesday to nominate one of our members. And I do think it's appropriate for someone from that committee to be one of the 2 people on an ongoing basis. And that can be rotated. But
Okay. And so might I recommend then that we go ahead and identify those people? Because each year as this changes, like these other members would rotate in and out anyway. And so there will be some type of approval of who those new members are.
Oh, so this is a year-long appointment. I did not recognize that. I thought we were rotating with every meeting.
Like
monthly.
throughout as
Yeah,
with,
okay.
no.
No, that's a whole different thing.
Yeah.
That was my recommendation, is that it not be a standing committee that somebody sits on for a year, that we simply rotate in and out each month like we do or previously did for TAB.
Yeah, I think we need a commitment here for who's going to be here for an extended period of time. And so what I'm asking you specifically is if you would go ahead and decide who those, actually, I think I said 3, whoever's in the leadership position. So whoever the president is, in the future, and then 2 other members. And so, Mr. Davis, if I could encourage you or recommend right now, the committee is here. And so we're all here. And so if we can go ahead and identify outside of the president or vice president, whoever's in leadership, the other 2 people that would serve on that committee, I think that would just save us time in the future.
I don't know. I don't feel like it's totally democratic. I mean, I would personally, as chair, I would nominate Dr. Anderson, but I don't know what her time frame would be and her availability. So,
right. And I don't think. I think.
What you're asking?
I'm just asking all of us to decide who's going to be
Okay.
there.
I volunteer.
Since the committee, in addition to the board, is already here. I think I mentioned in my communication that I spoke informally with Ms. Gallagher as well as Dr. Dykeman, since they were sort of, Ms. Gallagher being on that government and community relations, and Dr. Dykeman with the accountability and evaluation. I don't have, I don't think there's any preference. That has to be something the board decides. The ultimate goal is to be sure we have representation on that committee so that those individuals can work with that as a part of this committee, but you all can also report back to us, again, promoting that 2-way communication. So
is your recommendation that the chairperson of the Superintendent's Evaluation Committee, and what's the name of that committee now? That person be a member of this committee, as well as the government relations, have 2 people on there? Because we can go with that. I mean, what is the recommendation?
Yeah, I think whatever the board decides is, my recommendation is that in addition to the president or the superintendent, the vice president, because one of us will, will serve, is that we have two other board members serving.
I second that recommendation.
I third it.
Okay, so
And
who are those two people
I-
going to be?
I will,
Is the-
I will say that I will volunteer myself, as I feel like most of you are on committees that require a good deal of meeting and time, and the accountability committee at this point has not had regular meetings, and so I would be happy to serve on this committee to not put too much on other people's.
And so you're on the government community relations, that takes care of. So yeah, an appointment process would be good to go with this motion, that it be appointed by the president so that we don't have to go through this again.
Okay, so I heard three people say that they volunteered. Ms. Davis, I did hear you, and I heard Dr. Dykeman as well as Ms. Gallagher. I am not wedded to it being the president and or the vice president. So if we want to go with those three members, I'm okay with that. If the board is okay with that, I think three members would give us good representation as long as
Okay,
you're
who
communicating.
are they again now?
Dr. Dykeman, Ms. Davis volunteer, and
No, you said definitely, and everybody agreed that the president or vice president
We-
should be one.
Karina,
Okay,
Karina
all right.
and Ms. Carroll, we agree with you on that.
Oh,
Dr.
you
Gann.
did?
We
Okay,
with
all
you on
right.
that. We with
okay.
you.
So
Me too.
Dr. Dykeman and Ms. Gallagher.
Yes, ma'am. We're with
All
you.
right. Okay. So we have those two individuals in addition to these participants that we need to take action on. And so then the floor is open for a motion to accept those.
Okay, who's the third person now? Because that
One of those two.
okay, but I thought we had to have a name because I said let's pick someone from the government relations committee, and you said, well, it's already been picked.
Yeah, I said that. And so I think in my email, I said either myself or Dr. Maddox or whoever, like whoever takes this place in a month or so. It just needs to be a position there for a leadership team person that can participate.
So it sounds like the committee will be made up of from board representation, a member of the executive committee, that would be you
Yes,
or the
yes,
vice president.
yes, that's what
the
I'm
president
trying
or
to
the
say.
vice president, the chair of the accountability committee, and a volunteer from the government relations committee. Is that right?
Well, and it doesn't have to be the chair of that accountability committee. It just happens to be that Dr. Dykeman is the chair. So those other two positions are open to whoever the board decides. A member from accountability and a member from government relations.
Yes, that's good.
Did I clarify? Am I confusing this?
No, that's good.
You're
That's
understand-
right.
Code names, and so that's why I was going with that, and again, just use that position, but that's fine.
Okay, so we have, the floor is open for a motion to approve these participants along with Dr. Dykeman, Ms. Gallagher, and one representative from the executive committee.
So moved.
All right. So we have a motion by Dr. Maddox, a second by Ms. Gallagher. Any follow-up questions? Okay, all in favor of adopting this list of participants, if you would raise your hands and say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, and any abstaining? Okay. All right, did I get that correctly? We have one abstaining. Was anyone opposed? Okay, so that motion carries. We'll move forward to item number 13. This is adjournment. The floor is open.
So moved.
Okay, we have a motion by Ms. Davis, second by Dr. Maddox. If there are no objections, we are adjourned at 8:02 p.m. Thank you.
Good job.